So the heart houses the Shen. Remember, our Shen is our consciousness. We talked about last week how we want our Shen to come back into our heart so that we can go to sleep at night. And that during the day, the Shen comes out of the heart and animates the brain, right, so that we can think, or so that we can be conscious. The intellect, related to the pancreas, is what's in charge of our thinking. The Shen itself is what's in charge of our consciousness and staying present.
It's the little Shen.
This is the little Shen, yes. So when you have heart blood deficiency or yin deficiency, you can have sleeping issues. I think I said this last week, but the heart stores a lot of blood in it. It has a lot of blood. It's constantly moving blood, but there's always blood in it. And the Shen, the little Shen, relies on that blood. It needs it in order to nourish it and keep it active and doing its function. But at nighttime, that blood acts as like a pillow, a soft pillow, so that the Shen can rest on it. If you have enough blood there, then the Shen will come back into the heart and stay there. But if you don't have enough blood there, it has a hard time and it keeps popping out. Traditionally, this is the type of insomnia or difficulty sleeping where you have trouble falling asleep. Heart yin deficiency. Remember we said this last week that when it's yin deficient, it tends to show up at what time? Turn this into a question. Daytime or nighttime? Nighttime. Yin disorders tend to show up in the yin time. So a yin deficiency shows up at nighttime. And then what happens when you're yin deficient? This is me quizzing you from last week. When you're yin deficient, are you more hot or cold?
Cold.
Hot.
Wow.
Because the yin is the cooling and you don't have enough of it. So relatively you have more yang. And yang is warm. So relatively you're hot. Yeah.
So would you say the damp, rainy weather is yin weather?
Damp, rainy weather is yin weather, definitely.
So it's yin deficiency.
Because you don't have enough yin to cool you down. So in terms of sleep issues, what happens is that your heart tends to have heat in it. So what does heat do? Do you tend to feel calm when you're too hot, or do you tend to feel agitated? Agitated. Okay? So what'll happen is that heat will push the Shen out, and the Shen will keep popping out. But it tends to happen at nighttime, so you can fall asleep, no problem, but then in the middle of the night you'll wake up, and then you have trouble falling back asleep.
So is that the wake up, sweating, all of that, that has everything to do with yin deficiency?
Yes, exactly. So I'll reiterate that.
What's the middle of the night? Is that 4 o'clock?
Middle of the night can be any time between 11 and 6 in the morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
There are common times that it tends to happen, but it can be anywhere in that. So in terms of yin deficiency, you tend to have night sweats, because at nighttime is when yin diseases show up, and the yang comes out, and the yang warms you up, and then it pushes out your body fluids, and you sweat too much. Yeah.
So if you get cold in the middle of the night, then you're the opposite. Right?
If you get too cold in the middle of the night, it's more common that, yes, it's the opposite. It's more yang deficiency. You tend to see the yang deficient symptoms during the daytime where you feel the coldness. But it doesn't mean that it never happens at night. It can. You tend to see yin deficient symptoms at nighttime, but it can happen at any time. Someone who's menopausal, the diagnosis is yin deficient heat, and they have hot flashes all the time, right? Doesn't matter, but it'll be worse at nighttime.
cold.
You get cold. So when you're yang deficient, you don't have enough yang. So relatively, you have more yin. Since you have more yin, yin is cooling, then you tend to be cool.
Can you have both?
You can have both. Very common in elderly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Well, as we get older, sorry. I have a history of yin deficiency. I used to do a lot of sweat lodges, Native American sweat lodges, and I sweated out too much yin. Got rid of it all. And then I started suffering, and I started having night sweats and all that good stuff, getting too hot all the time.
Mm.
And now as I'm getting older, relatively older, I am starting to get colder easily, more easily. My yin deficient isn't as bad because I've been treating it. Drinking coconut water. Coconut water is very yin, very cooling. It's good stuff. But I'm starting to get colder more easily, which means my yang is starting to go down. Yeah. But you see it really bad in people who are in like 60s and older. Any other questions? Okay. In terms of commanding the blood flow, that's easy because the heart pumps all the time. Okay? So it's moving the blood throughout the body.